They call it the Brooks Family Retreat, but that's just rich people speak for an annual ego contest held in a house that looks like Wes Anderson shot a horror movie in it. 11 bedrooms, a creaky grand staircase that groans like it's seen. Things, taxidermy everywhere, including a moose that stares directly into your soul from above the fireplace, and a carved wooden sign that reads, "Let all who enter be true." The sign's been there since the 1930s, back when the place was a lodge called Pine Echo, known for clean air, clean sheets, and secrets whispered through pine boughs. I only know that because there's still an old rusted ad for it nailed to a tree behind the garage, half-eaten by moss. Anyway, my name's Matt Harris, and the only reason I was invited back this year was because my wife, Emily, née Brooks, is good at pretending I'm part of the furniture. You know the type. Looks expensive enough to keep, but not nice enough to display. Emily's the daughter of Judge Harold Brooks, a man who once sentenced a guy to 25 years for stealing catalytic converters. The irony being that he owns 3 Teslas. I married into the Brooks family 5 years ago, which is kind of like volunteering to join a cult where everyone drinks wine instead of Kool-Aid and silently judges you if you ask for domestic beer. We arrived late Friday afternoon. The GPS called it Pine Echo Residence, but even the app sounded skeptical. The gravel driveway looked like it hadn't been raked since Prohibition, and the statue out front, some kind of winged stag, was missing an eye. The vibe? Somewhere. Between old money Gothic and haunted Airbnb. Emily stepped out of the car like she was walking onto a runway in Milan. Even her travel sweatpants looked like they'd cost more than my last car. I was hauling our bags, trying not to throw out my back on her antique Louis Vuitton set. She insists on traveling like it's 1953, when the front door creaked open and out stepped Trevor. Trevor Brooks, the cousin, the childhood best friend, the guy who once saved my life, and probably the reason I never quite sleep soundly when we're here. He was already holding 2 bottles of craft IPA like it was a peace offering, but the kind you know comes with strings. "Maddie," he grinned. "Still wearing flannel like it's a personality?" I smiled. "Still handing out overpriced yeast water like it's an identity?" We hugged. His was tighter than mine. His cologne hit my nose like citrus and condescension. We walked inside together. I handed Emily her weekender clutch and tried not to notice the way Trevor's eyes followed her like a hawk circling a field mouse in Lululemon. Inside, the house was exactly as I remembered. Claustrophobically elegant. Oil paintings of grim ancestors whose eyes tracked you through the halls, mounted antlers over every door like some twisted Ivy League trophy case, and a fireplace big enough to host a Viking funeral in. That's when the game started. "Beer?" Trevor asked again, already cracking one open. "Sure," I said, accepting the bottle. I took a fake sip, nodded in approval, and turned to check on our room. Upstairs, I dumped the beer down the sink and stashed the bottle in the linen closet. 1 down. Probably 20 more to go before he gives up. This wasn't my first rodeo. See, 3 years ago, Trevor saved me from a house fire. Well, a fire. Our grill caught the back porch, and I passed out from smoke after stupidly running back in for Emily's grandmother's quilt. Next thing I knew, I was waking up on the lawn coughing up black tar while Trevor patted me down like a soldier who'd just pulled a buddy out of an IED blast. The family turned it into a legend. Trevor the brave, Trevor the hero, Trevor the modest savior who totally doesn't bring it up every Thanksgiving. What no one mentions is that he was already at our house that day, alone with Emily, waiting for me to come back with ice. After the fire, I couldn't say anything. How do you accuse the man who saved your life of sniffing around your wife? Especially when everyone else was busy buying him medals and writing his name into their wills. But this weekend, something felt off from the jump. He kept handing me beers, toasting every little thing, to family, to Vermont, to surviving the drive. He even toasted the moose head over the fireplace. I kept dumping them, pretending to get buzzed while hiding empties in more and more creative places. Behind curtains, in the piano bench, inside a hollowed-out copy of Moby Dick in the library. I think I invented beer taxidermy. Other relatives arrived. Simon and Lauren Stafford, Emily's second cousins or third or whatever. They wore Patagonia. everything, and spoke in TED Talk rhythm. Simon cornered me about cryptocurrency. Lauren asked me if I'd done the inner work. I told her I'd installed drywall by myself once. She didn't laugh. Dinner was wild game stew and 7 different kinds of wine, none of which tasted like anything I'd willingly drink twice. Emily laughed a little too hard at Trevor's stories. He kept looking at her like she was a memory he wanted to relive. I played the good husband, smiling and nodding, but inside my brain was already mapping every emergency exit and blind spot in this house. That night, I told Emily I was beat and heading up early. She kissed me on the cheek and told me she'd be up soon. I waited an hour, then 2. Around 2 a.m., I woke up in a cold bed. Emily's side was empty. Her phone was still on the charger. I checked the bathroom. Nothing. Checked the hallway. Still quiet except for the creaking of old wood and the occasional cough of someone else's dreams. Then I stopped outside Trevor's room. Silence. No voices. No laughter. Just stillness. I stood there, hand hovering near the doorknob. I remembered something. A trick Trevor once showed me. Old locks like this could be popped with a butter knife and a little pressure just above the keyhole. I went back, downstairs, grabbed a knife from the kitchen, and returned. 2 seconds. Click. I opened the door slowly. There she was. Emily naked, lying on her side. Trevor spooning her. His arm draped over her chest like he owned the patent to her heartbeat. They were asleep. Peaceful. Like the world hadn't cracked in half around them. I didn't say anything. I didn't scream. I just closed the door, walked down the hall, threw up in the hallway outside the guest linen closet. The taste of venison and humiliation still haunts me. Back in the room, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, then at the fireplace. That's when I remembered the gun safe, the one Judge Brooks kept for emergencies, hidden behind the loose stone in the hearth. I found the key, opened it, pulled out a Remington 870, familiar and worn. Cold steel and wood, the kind of weapon that hums with old stories. I sat with it, thought about a lot of things. Then I put the barrel in my mouth and realized I couldn't reach the trigger. Long arms, short resolve. Eventually, I put it down. 10 minutes later, I was in my truck, headed away from Pine Echo and every lie it echoed back at me. You ever try to drive through mountain roads at 3:30 in the morning, half-caffeinated, post-betrayal with a shotgun case still rattling in the back seat? Feels like you're in a country song written by Stephen King. I passed a deer standing in the middle of the road like it was waiting for a lift. Didn't flinch, just stared at me, chewing something and judging my life choices. I needed gas. Not for the truck. That was fine. But for me, emotional fuel. Something that didn't taste like betrayal or stale venison. So I pulled into this place about 30 minutes out, a gas station called the Bear Den, which is either a terrible name or a brilliant one, depending on how you feel about taxidermy. And overcooked hot dogs. It was the kind of place that sells windshield wiper fluid, bullet keychains, and knives engraved with live, free, or die for $14.99. Inside, it smelled like burnt coffee and freedom. I grabbed an energy drink with a name that sounded like a failed heavy metal band, Panther Voltage X, and took it to the register. The cashier was this kid with a mustache he hadn't earned yet and a neck tattoo of a crying wolf. He looked like he'd seen 4 Fast and Furious movies and learned nothing. "You good, man?" he asked, scanning my can. I thought about saying something deep, something that hinted at the storm churning inside me. Instead, I said, "Do you guys sell beef jerky shaped like guns?" He blinked. "No." "Missed opportunity," I said, and paid in cash. I chugged the drink in the parking lot, leaned against my truck, and tried not to spiral. The drink tasted like battery acid and regret, but it worked. I could feel my brain unclenching. I was halfway through convincing myself to drive to the coast and disappear into a fishing village like some emotionally scarred Hemingway character, when I saw headlights pulling in, big white SUV, Cadillac, too clean for mountain roads, and then it hit me. That was Trevor's car. Only, it wasn't Trevor driving. It was Savannah, his wife. 7 months pregnant, still managing to look like she ran a successful Etsy shop and a CrossFit gym on the side. In the passenger seat was her mother-in-law, Emily's mom, and in the back was Brooke, Trevor, and Savannah's daughter, 6 years old. Wore a unicorn hoodie and had the kind of eyes that made you wish the world was kinder. I was still processing why they were there, at a backwoods gas station in the middle of the night, when it happened. The van, black unmarked. It rolled in quiet, like a thought you don't want to finish. 2 guys got out. No rush, no noise, just intention. Brooke stepped out of the Cadillac holding a plush cat named Sparkle or Sprinkle or some other lie kids believe in. Then, like it was a scene rehearsed a dozen times in the dark, one guy threw a blanket over her and the other grabbed her legs. No yelling, no chaos, just execution. Savannah screamed. Ran. She was fast, too. Faster than you'd expect for someone. Carrying another human. One of them shoved her down hard. She landed on her side with a sound that will probably echo in my skull until the day I die. And that was when I moved. I didn't think. Didn't calculate. Just ran. Grabbed the plastic bag still sitting in the bed of my truck, the one with the second Panther Voltage X can inside, swung it like a medieval flail straight into the guy holding Brooke. He dropped, like a sack of bricks, with student debt. The second guy tried to pull something from his belt, knife or pepper spray or maybe a Yelp review. I don't know. Didn't matter. I tackled him into the side of the van so hard it set off the alarm. He stabbed me once. Somewhere. Near my ribs. Felt like a wasp sting at the time. Adrenaline's a hell of a drug. He ran. Got in the van. Tires screeched. The vehicle peeled out, fishtailing into the darkness with Brooke inside. I stood there, blood soaking into my flannel, trying to scream. But finding nothing, then I moved again, hopped into Savannah's Cadillac. Get in! I yelled at Emily's mom, who was still trying to help her daughter-in-law off the pavement. We're going! She looked at me like she finally understood what kind of man her daughter had married. They jumped in. I floored it. And just like that, we were in pursuit. I dialed 911, told them everything. Well, not everything. Left out the part where I may or may not have driven away from a shotgun decision an hour prior. Figured they didn't need that context just yet. Then I lied. Told them there was a fire at an old barn 2 miles past where the van was headed. Why? Because I knew something most people didn't. Fire departments respond faster than police in these parts, especially when you mention the words structure and possible livestock inside. We followed the van through back roads I didn't know existed. My side was screaming now, the stab wound pulsing like it had its own heartbeat. Finally, we saw it. The van pulled into a clearing, big wooden barn, probably built during the Civil War. No electricity, no lights. Then I heard sirens. A beat later, fire trucks. We pulled up as they were unloading. I stumbled out, pointed at the barn. Little girl inside, I said. Black van, 2 men, one armed, one unconscious back at Bear Den. Then the lights went out. I remember the barn doors creaking open. I remember hearing Brooke's voice. And then I remember nothing. I woke up in a room that smelled like bleach, latex, and overcooked chicken noodle soup. Which is to say, I was definitely not dead. Slightly disappointed, to be honest. Thought maybe if there was an afterlife, I'd get something with better lighting. The first face I saw wasn't Emily's. Wasn't a doctor either. It was Hannah. Emily's cousin. The only Brooks with a sense of humor and the only one who ever talked to me like I was a real person and not a stray they decided to feed for a season. She was holding a Jell-O cup and one of those hospital apple juices with the foil. Lid that makes you feel like you're opening a juice box for royalty. Welcome back, John Wick, she said. I grunted. My ribs hated that. She pulled up a chair. News or juice first? Juice, I croaked. She handed it over. I sipped. Tasted like apple perfume and public school lunch. Okay, she said. Here's the breakdown. You lost a lot of blood. They had to stitch you up like a Thanksgiving turkey, but you're gonna be okay. Your stab wound missed anything essential, which is a miracle considering your organs were apparently on strike. I nodded. And Brooke? I asked. She's fine. Safe. Little shaken up, but mostly mad that her plush cat didn't make it. Out with her? Your quick thinking got her rescued. The barn was locked, but firefighters got there fast. Good call on the fake fire. I leaned back. Let it sink in. Then I asked the question I'd been dreading. Does Emily know? Oh, she knows, Hannah said. She found your vomit trail, your empty bed, and the gun safe wide open. Had a full-on panic attack. Thought you went full. Unsolved mysteries? Then her mom called to say you saved a kid, possibly saved Savannah, and maybe ruptured a lung in the process. She here? I asked. Was. She came in like a hurricane in a cashmere sweater. Cried, said she was sorry, said she didn't know what she was doing, all that. I exhaled, long and deep. I don't hate her, I said. No one said you should, Hannah replied. But loving someone doesn't mean they get a free pass, especially not when they spoon their cousin like it's the season finale of some twisted Vermont soap opera. We both laughed. Then I winced. Stitches reminded me they existed. Later that afternoon, Emily did show up. She looked like she hadn't slept since the betrayal. Her hair was tied up messily. Emily never does messy. Her eyes were red. She wore a hoodie I didn't recognize, probably something from Trevor's wardrobe disguised as emotional support. She sat on the edge of the bed like I was a sleeping bear and she wasn't sure if poking me would end in therapy or a homicide. I'm sorry, she said eventually. I didn't say anything, not because I didn't want to, but because I didn't trust what would come out. So I just watched her. I was drunk. It was stupid. I didn't mean for anything to happen. I wasn't thinking. I missed you, and I got scared. Of what? I asked. Of losing something real, she whispered. I raised an eyebrow. So you reached for something fake? She looked away, couldn't hold my eyes. I'm not here to beg, she said. I just want to fix it. I'll do whatever it takes. You can hate me, scream at me, freeze me out. I'll take it. But I want to stay married to you, even if you don't believe a word I say ever again. Emily, I said. I'm not gonna scream. I'm not gonna make a scene. But you should know something, she nodded, bracing for impact. I'm not gonna control you. Not gonna track your phone or read your texts or follow you around like some dime store private eye. But I also don't trust you. That part's broken. Tears welled up. She nodded like she deserved it. All I'm gonna do is watch, I said. Not in a creepy way, just in a let's see what happens way. You do what you need to do, and I'll decide eventually if I want to keep doing this. She wiped her face and left the room without another word. That night, Savannah came by, still bruised, still visibly shaken. She had Brooke with her, and the kid gave me a picture she drew, me, a fire truck, and her plush cat with angel wings. Savannah kissed me, on the lips, soft, gentle, full of something I didn't quite know how to name. I'm naming the baby after you, she said. What? I blinked. If it's a boy. Matthew River Stafford. River was the name of my dog growing up. He only barked at liars and delivery guys. I laughed. You're wild. You're a hero. Nah, I said. I just did what someone should have done. Then came Trevor. He walked in like a priest heading into confession, all sheepish eyes and fake humility. He stood at the foot of my bed, awkward, hands behind his back like he wasn't sure if I was gonna punch him or ask him to co-sign a mortgage. I don't have excuses, he said. Good, I replied. He sat. You saved my daughter. I owe you everything. No, you don't, I said. You already saved me once. Now we're even. He looked like he didn't know what to say. So I helped him out. If you're gonna keep sleeping with Emily, I said, just be more discreet. I don't want to find out again. Also, don't get her pregnant. That'd be awkward. I've had a vasectomy. He choked on his own guilt. Emily, who had quietly entered the room again, gasped behind him. Matt! I held up a hand. Don't. I'm tired. I'm done pretending like I'm gonna throw a chair through a window. I'm not. I'm just gonna heal and watch and see what life does next. Emily nodded, sat in the chair beside me like a ghost. Trevor left. The room fell quiet. For a while, I thought maybe that was it. Maybe this was how we end, quietly, like a chapter in a book you don't remember finishing. Then the doctor came in. Young guy. Looked like Doogie Howser with a beard. "Mr. Harris," he said, "quick update from your labs." I nodded. "Couple things to note. Your recovery's going well, and there's something else." He glanced at his clipboard. "You said you had a vasectomy?" "Yeah, 10 years ago." He cleared his throat. "Well, funny thing. Based on your current hormone panel and motility tests, it appears the procedure failed. You're still fertile." The room froze. Emily's eyes went wide. I blinked. "Meaning," the doctor continued, "if your wife ever does get pregnant, well, the child could be yours, or absolutely not yours." He smiled like he'd just read me a fun fortune cookie. Then he left, and I just sat there, looking out the window at the mountains, thinking, Pine Echo never lets you leave clean.